Okay, my outstandingly wonderful friends, this is going to be the most important video you'll probably ever watch in your whole life. And I am really serious about this because we're going to be talking about interstitium. And scientists say they discovered a new human organ, believe it or not. And it was right under their noses. Interstitium was right there under our noses and skin all along, but it took a new way of examining tissues to figure it out. And this is from 2018. They said, okay, this is a new organ system. Well, guess what? I was studying this for 10 years, and because I could find it in my fossils. So they had no clue about this, and it's only been the last couple of years they even starting to examine it. So what is interstitium? This interstitium. We're going to come back and read what they have to say about it. This is the most important organ in your whole entire body. It's your immune system. They had no clue. All right, this goes back to 2016, Mount Sinai Health Systems, when they first started to realize what interstitium was. And this is what the analysis of the components of interstitium. And it runs through the entire body. So every membrane in your body, of which there is 100 bazillion of them, because even your cells have membranes. So there is a layer of protection, which is a membrane, and it has to protect the contents of whatever it's in, because that can't be exposed to the outside environment. Just like you can't take the skin off you and go outside and walk around, everything's fine. This is your mucosa, skin, mucosa, fascia. It's the fabric that wraps everything. It's the sheaths that sheaths everything in your body, cells included. Now, why is it called mucosa? Well, this is where mucus and oils are sent out to protect you. You need certain things in your body that protect you from invasion. And one of them is mucus. Now, where does the mucus come from? It doesn't just squirt out of the cells. Bacteria do literally everything in your body, and when you find out how much bacteria is in your body, you just can't believe it. 2/3 of your body is water, and every bit of that water is saturated with bacteria. There's supposed to be bacteria living in all of these fluid-filled spaces. Those fluid-filled spaces have bacteria that create the mucus to protect themselves from invasion. So they're maybe not worried too much about you, but they're worried about themselves. And so they're going to create mucus and send it out. They're going to create enzymes and catalysts to go out through your intestines to digest food. And then they have to decide, what am I going to let back in here? Because it's got to absorb that. So not only does it have to keep the stuff out, it has to let the stuff back in. This is an elegant system. And it is completely manned by bacteria. Bacteria do every single thing in here. Now, what happens if you kill the bacteria in your little fluid-filled bags here? Well, you get invaded. Well, what happens with the invasion? Well, COVID appears to have a devastating effect on these little brown fibers. You see these little brown fibers? And all of your they call them fibritic conditions, fibrosis, where these are the fibers. And this is, they never knew this before. So don't forget now, this goes back to 2016, the first time they ever really even had a picture in their mind of what was going on here. And now in 2018, they say, yeah, it's an organ system. In 2021, doctors still don't have any clue about it. I'm going to tell you right now, because this is probiotics. This is probiotics living in here. And if you have any antibiotics or you've ever damaged your probiotics, you're in trouble. You have to replenish those probiotics. If you don't replenish those probiotics, you are just a source of invasion. And that's why they say these people have pre-existing conditions. They have already damaged their bacteria that keeps the stuff out and attacks the stuff that tries to attack you. If you don't have that, you're immunocompromised. And it's as simple, really, as taking these new probiotics. Everybody's selling them now, and it's really taken off. I mean, big time. And if you don't take them, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to make any 100% recommendations. I take them, and everybody I know that takes them has been 100% big time. Like, wow, what a difference. and they can affect everything in your body, because everything in your body is chemistry, and everything in your body has to be worked on by bacteria. Not a single molecule goes in your body, not a single one other than oxygen, that is not broken down, which is food and digestion and enzymes and catalysts and bacteria and acids and salts. They are the things that create the breakdown of all those products. Then your bacteria, something in there, has to decide, you can't come in here because you're something nasty, and we don't like nasty things down here. Who decides that? It's bacteria, and they live here. And if you don't have them working for you, you are going to be invaded, and then you're in this immunocompromised condition. Now, even if you get your immunities set up a little bit with these shots and so forth, they wane if you don't have the bacteria in you to have a healthy immune system. And this is not my words. Let me show you what was just been written in the last few months from the National Institute of Health. So don't forget now, my whole point of being here with Interstitium is they never knew it even existed until a couple of years ago. And they have still not associated these brown fibers with the expansion of the fluid-filled bags. These fluid-filled bags have to stretch and move and pull, because they're in between all your tissues and on your arms and your legs and in your face and everywhere else. They used to call it areolar tissue, which was just sort of a floppy, fleshy tissue. Well, it's much more than that now. They realize this is a highway through the entire system. These are not isolated bags. Every one of these is connected to the rest of them. This is really not a good representation of the trueness of this, because every bag of fluid connects to every other bag, and they know that. I worked with the people in Germany who have a fascia institute there, and they found that the tattoo stuff, that you get tattoos here in your outer layer of tissue, can be found on the organs and everywhere in your body. 100% they could find that same chemistry, in small amounts. Like I said, I don't think it's anything dangerous. I have no clue about it. But my point is that everything moves through these. And when you break these are the brown ones. They're tough. This is floppy. The pink is just a floppy, flappy thing that flex, because it stretches, it pulls, it does all that stuff, which you do with your body. But something's got to bring it back to where it's supposed to be. These brown balls, these black balls, anchor the springs. The springs can flex and twist and do all that, but they're not supposed to break. Now, something is attacking these springs, and it's causing a collagen breakdown. And I'll show you the reports on the collagen. It converts, one of them goes excessive and one of them gets less. And it appears that this one be the one that's getting less, because they're breaking and going into your bloodstream and getting caught in the very, very tips of what they call the capillaries, where at the very, very end of where your blood flows down through your body, at the tips of your fingers, your toes, your skin, it all has to convert back into the vein and be pulled back in to be cleaned up. And that's what's called deep vein thrombosis. Fibers. It's fibritic thrombosis. And thrombosis just means you're plugging it up. All right, this is a little gross, so if you're squeamish, don't look. Now, a friend with cystic fibrosis sent me this pic of a blood clot she coughed up. What are we looking at here? If you understand anatomy, you'll realize that these are branches of like an artery. All right, and what happens is these branches go over to little bitty capillaries, and so the artery blood comes down, and by this time its oxygen is pretty much gone, and it's got to go over to the vein to go back up to get reoxygenated. Now, I don't know if she coughed this up. It came out of her lung, obviously, so some of the fibers in her lung, this is what I'm thinking. Now, it could be wrong, could be right. I'm not saying do anything, don't do anything, but we're doing research. Now, if these were clamped off on the end, you would get death in the surrounding tissue, because it would back up and cause it literally to choke itself off and die. And I believe that may be the case here. And this is expelling a piece of necrotic dead tissue, but still shows the branches attached to where the plugging, the clotting would begin. That's my take on it. And if this was looked at under electron microscope, we might be able to find out what literally is clogging up in here. Is it something that we can actually see? Are there fibers? And if we can identify the fibers and the chemistry of them, can we find out where they normally would be residing in the body? And could we relate it to this guy having not only lung damage or kidneys or whatever? Because it won't always happen in the lung. This just popped out of a guy's lung, or a person's lung. Now, normally you're going to have it in the feet and the lower extremities, right, the toes and so forth, in that area, and deep inside in the hips and so forth, where there's a lot of transfer of blood and a lot of, just specific gravity. Because I believe these are probably heavier, these springs, and they're drifting down into the blood and then ending up in the lower parts of the body. Kids are getting COVID toe. And it's manifesting itself really nasty in the toes, because it's the same thing. The blood comes down, it's got to get over to the back to come back up. And the kids have very strong lungs, it appears. So that's the key to what we're looking at here, I believe. All right, now I'm doing everything I can to get the word out on this. I just did one the other day, links between acne, diabetes, Crohn's disease, and COVID. And the link is the bacteria in the gut. And we go literally through the gut. So I think this is a long one, an hour and 11 minutes, but this is so important. This is your health. That's the most important thing you have in your whole life. Your life can be miserable due to conditions of health, and it can be joyous due to conditions of health. And I want to work on the second part of the equation. All right, just to throw a few little things on. New research on collagen could influence treatment of COVID-19. They're just starting to understand the collagens and the springiness and the flexiness of the other ones. Your lungs do this all day long, boom, 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 or you die. Now, that's springs. They're springs. If they break, you're in trouble. When you get all kind of lung diseases, that's when they break, and something's attacking your lungs. And as far as I'm concerned, I think you don't have the bacteria in your lungs, the probiotics, which would be sent to your lungs by your digestive system or wherever it was manufactured, that bacteria. I don't know where it is manufactured, the probiotics, but I have a feeling it's in the gut. Well, it's one of the organs in the gut, I would imagine. And then it sends it into these interstitial fluid system. And so now they're trying to understand about the different collagens. Let's go on from here. All right, this is National Institute of Health. Post-COVID-19 fibrosis, exactly what we're talking about, those little brown fibers, an emerging complication of SARS infections. Now, I looked through the whole thing, and the bags are collapsing, and they're showing the evidence of it, and then they go down to the cytokine storms, and one of the hypotheses regarding aggressive disease course among the elderly is the cytokine storms compared to younger population. Well, that's because the younger population does not have is more robust in their lungs, but they still get this fibrosis, and they're getting COVID toe and all kinds of stuff. The old people just die from their lungs collapsing. Basically, that's what it is. It's an emerging complication, and it's caused by pneumonia and acute respiratory distress system. Now, let me show you what else the National Institute has to say. All right, this is just put out a few months back. Probiotics in the prevention and treatment of COVID-19. And what is it? What is it? What is about the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 with probiotics? Well, I go right down to the conclusion. I mean, I went through the whole thing, trust me. When I look into these things, I look deeply. But at the conclusion is the conclusion. And let's see what they concluded. And it was very good, a good read if you want to go through it. Evidence supports probiotics' role in regulating the immune system, suggesting a definitive role, which means an absolutely certain role for probiotics in viral infections, which is what COVID is. Probiotic supplementation could reduce the severity of COVID-19 morbidity and mortality. Probiotics can inhibit cytokine storms by simultaneously boosting your normal innate immune system and evading the exaggerated time it takes to adapt to this new novel disease. Nobody's ever seen it before, so we have to completely build an immunity to it. But if you're suspect to having any of these pre-existing conditions, you die before you can establish the immunity. So it's a challenge to respond quickly to this viral onslaught, and that's why they're saying probiotics induce suppression. The probiotics-induced suppression keeps down the inflammatory cytokine response. These are the storms they call about, that your body attacking itself. Well, the probiotics will keep that down. It may prevent both the severity and the occurrence of ARDS, ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, which I just talked about a minute ago. It makes probiotics an attractive adjunct, which means that you should add it on, is what they're saying. Attractive adjunct, I take that to mean that. Inventing effective therapies would transform the impact of the pandemic on lives as well as economies across the globe. Absolutely. Therefore, supplementation of probiotics in high risk and severely ill patients and frontline health workers might limit the infection and flatten the COVID-19 curve. That sounds pretty impressive to me. However, currently there are no random controlled trials. They're not even looking into it, it appears, to demonstrate conclusive evidence. However, on the other hand, circumstantial evidence has supported the presumption that probiotic supplementation decreases the severity of COVID-19 responses, including death, mortality. They're saying many clinical trials are underway globally to see what the probiotics' role in prevention and treatment of COVID-19 is. I can't find anybody, I've never heard a single word in the media or from any doctors, and the doctors have no clue about this either that I've talked to, none, zero. I ask them about probiotics, well, who knows. They leave it to us, we're the experts. Well, if you put in any disease that you have, I don't care what it is, any disease, acne, if you put that in followed by digestive issues, which means your probiotics, you'll find out there's a link. But it'll always say acne can cause a digestive disorder. It's exactly the opposite of what they've been saying. And they've known this for 10 years. This is 2021. Let me show you something. Same people. I'm talking about the National Institute of Health. I'm not going off the cliff with anything here. No, the one we were just looking at was from 2021. Look at this. This is from 2011. Probiotics, which is what we've just been talking about, and immune health. It's exactly the same things. The benefit effects of probiotics have been demonstrated in many diseases. And it goes on to say the exact same things and that they would look into it. And that was 10 years ago. And now they're just trying to, current evidence shows promise for further developing health benefits and efficacy of probiotics and probiotic-derived factors on the regulation of host homeostasis, which means the regulation keep you immune, including immune health. And then it's you can read all this stuff. Nobody reads it. This was 10 years ago. So, and the doctors still have no clue about this. And when I don't want to get deep in the woods with this because it starts to upset me, but there's no widely spread information and discussion and forums. They say, look to the science, look to the guys that are on TV talking about, the louder the voice, the more it's accepted. And until we can have, and because I'm not allowed to speak about this, I was actually shut off on Facebook for a week. Not Facebook, on YouTube. They took my whole thing down for a week. I couldn't post or do anything because I talk about this, and I don't know if this will happen this time. I'm just referring to studies. I'm a researcher. And I'm a physical researcher. And I showed you the interstitium. It's all brand new. This is brand new stuff. There should be no suppression of this information. And I haven't heard one word, and I know maybe you have, about probiotics and how they might be helpful to suppress a little bit of the problems with this COVID. If we would try it, there's no random control trials. So how do we even know? I mean, everybody I've talked to and everybody I've mentioned about probiotics has been taking them and have had zero problems, zero. So if your body, and a lot of them have come from issues that were affecting them out of them because of the probiotics being able to replace this barrier against these invasions. Now we're set up to suppress invasions that we know about. But COVID was so new and nobody knew how to deal with it. When it hits your body says, what do we do about this? I said, oof, I don't know, you're going to have to figure this out. And he said, yeah, but the thing is attacking like crazy, man. The lungs are collapsing. He said, well, I don't know what to do. What are you going to do? He said, well, and then they start attacking your body. They call it a cytokine storm. That's because your body says, I don't know what to do, but if we throw enough hand grenades at this thing, hopefully we'll kill it. Well, what it does ends up is killing you, basically, because you never get to the heart of the issue, which is the bacterial suppression. All right? This is very, very important. It should be looked into. All right? I hope somebody will pass this on to your doctors and so forth, and to anybody that has any influence about how, media, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, CBS, I don't care who gets it. Somebody's got to bring this up and start talking about what they're talking about. This is not just me. It's not just me. I'm just showing you the details that I have discovered from the research. This is nothing I did. I'm just showing you what other people have understood. I just showed you that they finally realized this new interstitium exists. It is constructed of a spring and a floppy bag. Well, the springs are breaking. The springs are tough and strappy. It's like bamboo stuck in your veins. And by the time it's got to go over through the little bitty bits, it can't get through those capillaries. All right, this is just from April 2021. Inflammatory bowel disease and blood clots, and what's the connection? Well, I think it's the fibrin myself, and it's not because of the inflammatory bowel disease. It's because of its effect on the little springy things I was talking about, and then you end up getting blood clots and so forth. However, sometimes you do get blood in your stool, and then you have a serious issue. Now, they talk about how it can really damage people's lives, and we don't understand the precise cause. And they're focusing on genetic. It occurs in people who are genetic risk. Likely they have an abnormal immune response to things in their environment, including their microbiome. Now, an abnormal response to their microbiome, I think it's the microbiome is giving an abnormal response to something else in the body, and then you get this fibrotic condition, and the collagens break down, and this can be tested and looked at in a very precise, scientific, methodical way by testing what fabrics are in what conditions in what places in the body when certain bacteria are missing, and you can do it with autopsies, and even when people are alive, I'm sure they have all kinds of new techniques to observe these tissues and what they consist of. If there's an excess of a certain collagen in there where there shouldn't be, well, why? Is there a certain bacteria that's missing or excessive? These are the kind of things they have to put the pieces together. You can't just look at it like a shotgun approach. And right now they say, well, we don't know what happens, but we're really looking into it. Well, let's try to take the pieces apart. When they have these deep what's in the blood clot? What does that blood clot consist of? Just blood? Is there fibers in there? They say it's fibrosis. It must be loaded with fibers. Where do fibers come from? Are they a specific type of fiber? Is there somewhere else in the body of that person that is giving them trouble, or lungs, or they have a heart condition, or that's probably where these things are emanating from. If they are fibers and they do end up floating through, and they do get to these little tiny capillaries that can't let them pass through, they clot up there, and then you get these deep vein thrombosis. The vein is where blood goes from the artery and deeply in these little tiny capillaries to come over into the veins. You see this? We normally have a very good relationship with these organisms. Trillions of bacteria live in our gut. Well, they're giving them all kinds of antibiotics and so forth. They live in their gut with viruses and fungi and all kinds of things. Absolutely. There's all toxins, there's nasty stuff, there's good stuff, there's food, there's bacteria, there's mushrooms. I don't know what's living down there. But it should not get into your body. You should have a membrane that keeps it out. We've made a lot of advances with new treatments, but we still got a lot of work to do. The majority of our patients don't get into full remission, even with our best treatments. It's because they never get to the probiotic issue. You're still in an invasive condition, but they just continue to talk about people from certain areas in the world, and they have genetic conditions that cause this. Well, I think it's just exactly, I think they have it backwards, to be perfectly honest with you, as I have shown quite clearly. And this stuff is just falling into place. I just got a couple other things. This just dropped on me, and I got a couple other things came up. Where do you see this? Okay, they're comparing the number of viruses we have in us to the number of stars there are in the universe. Now, listen to this. This is very, very interesting. This is the Science Channel, and they're going to be talking about viruses. This is another Manifest Destiny thing. I wasn't expecting this, and then I was just getting ready, and boop, it pops on about viruses. Now, I'm going to tell you something about viruses. They're going to talk about, we don't know whether they're alive or dead. Well, I'm going to tell you what they are. In my mind, they are a program. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of different types of viruses. And they are all specific programs. They're not actually necessarily alive. But when that program attaches to a living cell, it reprograms that cell. And that's basically what they say. The viruses take over and they reprogram the cells to do their own bidding. That's what they do say. And I have to basically agree with that, because it is no more than a program code. Now, what do we do about a virus? Well, we have all kinds of mechanisms to protect ourselves, mucus and, fever and all kinds of things like that. But we also need a program code that recognizes that program code and produces a toxin to get rid of that thing. That's the only way it can do it. And the only way it can be done is to, first of all, some bacteria has to sniff it out and say, okay, I analyzed what this bad guy is, and I figured out what the code is, and we designed something to kill it. That's what's called immunity. Well, you're only immune for a couple of minutes. You just killed it. Well, you got to figure it out again when you see it? No. You have to store that code somewhere. Where do you store the code? You store that code in what's called your junk DNA. They call it junk. 98% of your DNA, 98%, is random access codes. And there used to be a thing called ROM and RAM. ROM is read-only memory. That is the 2% of your DNA that constructs your body. Your eyeballs go where they're supposed to be, your toes, and everything that's the construction codes. 2%. That's the ROM, read-only memory. Don't deviate from this code. Well, what is RAM? RAM is random access memory. It's memory that you can change. It's like where you do adding and subtracting, and you change parameters on occasion. Well, we have something in the junk DNA that's called CPG islands. And they're little clumps. They don't know what they do. They're just little clumps there. Well, those are the clumps that are program clumps. They're just like one of these. There's only so much in there. I think they can have like 30. I can't remember. There's so much in the clump, and now why do I say that 98% is programmable? And it was not just random junk that was in there and everybody's is different, which it is. I go along with that, no question whatsoever. However, and this is a gigantic however, when an exact identical twin is born, their DNA is exactly identical. The construction code ROM, the RAM, everything's the same. Identical, because they were born at the same time. At the moment of birth, there's no difference between those codes. If they analyze one to the other, they find virtually no difference whatsoever. Now, as they begin to grow and they get experiences and feelings and infections and attitudes, and all of those things are built into those 98% is where it's getting stored all day long, all your life. Now, what happens is you can go in there and pick up those codes and come back with them to recall memories, like on Jeopardy. That guy on Jeopardy, man, whew, there's a guy on there now that's just incredible. I don't know if he's ever going to go off. Anyway, some people have excessive abilities that other people just don't have. Now, how that happened? Is it something in their diet? I don't know. Is it something in their genetics? Was their mother and father real smart? With the two of them to go together, they make some super smart? I have no idea. But all I can tell you is that viruses are program codes. You have program codes that go back against the virus. They send stuff out into the cells that are being attacked, and they say, hey, guess what? If you make some COH2, some zinc, and throw a couple of sulfurs in there, get out there, bang, you're all good to go. But if it goes down there and there's no bacteria to do that job because you had antibiotics and the bacteria's not there, you say, okay, here's what I'm going to make. He said, well, who's going to make that? He said, well, that X2057 chromosome over there, that gene or whatever he is, the little bacteria guy, the little cell, he's supposed to make it. He said, well, he's dead. Oh, man, we're in trouble. Yep, you're right. We're in big trouble. And the only way you can replenish that is probiotics, and we need to specify what beneficial bacteria lives in what places in the body, because it's all different, 100%. Now listen to what they have to say. This was on a Science Channel, and it just came on as, again, Manifest Destiny. Listen to this.
Andromeda.
That really makes us ask, whose planet is this anyway? If you just added this up by sheer numbers, you would say this is the virus planet.
The microcosmos has also taken over our bodies. We're only partly human.
The fact that so little of my own body, of everyone's body, is human cells, kind of leaves you wondering what's the rest of it made of, right?
It is astonishing that we share our bodies with over 380 trillion viruses.
And over 39 trillion bacterial cells.
All right. This is what's in our body. They're just not laying around in there doing nothing. Those are the workers that do everything in our body. They keep us healthy, they break down the food, they deliver it, they pick up the trash, they bring in the gases that you need, they bring the gases out, they bring the energy that you need to move your muscles. This is all done by these working bacteria, and a virus is nothing more than a chemistry set. It's just a little tiny chemistry set that is designed for a specific purpose. It's a ROM code. And it goes into some bacteria, and it says, hey, here's the deal. They just sent it down from the CPG islands. They said, you're having trouble with some COVID-19. Here's the deal. Go out and kill it. all over. You're healthy.